I got some bad news for Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo previously said that he was the A side over Gervonta Tank Davis. The numbers are in, and we're going to talk about it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I've been covering boxing for over a decade. Best in the business, and it's not even close. For all your boxing needs, points of views, topics, conversation, live streams, hit the subscribe button. Teofimo just fought Jamaine Ortiz as the main event, a precursor to this weekend, Sunday's Super Bowl. And the numbers, at least the preliminary numbers with the viewing, came back. Spoiler, they're not that good. I said they're not that good. Boom. As you guys see on the screen, Jedi Goodman on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Follow him. He reports the numbers. Now, the thing I like about this page, Jedi Goodman, he does an excellent job of just kind of reporting the numbers, but he does it with everybody in like the sports entertainment realm. So you have a lot of idiots, you idiots in boxing, and they'll pick out certain people's numbers, but only to try to shame said entity, PBC or whatever fighter. They're not just giving out the information freely. Like there's agendas. We know how people act in boxing. Let's not kid ourselves. But basically, there's some people in boxing, they make certain points only to illustrate one thing, but there'll be an eerily similar situation and they won't even speak about it. Like they'll show somebody's lowest numbers to shame that fighter, but they won't show another person that they like. You know, when they show that favoritism, they won't show their numbers. So shout out to Jedi Goodman. Does an exceptional job of across the board, you know, where the numbers are good, bad, the numbers are coming out. You guys see it. It says the second top ranked boxing event on ESPN this calendar year, 2024, the second, right? Teofimo Lopez versus Jamaine Ortiz averaged 451,000 viewers, 0.13 in the 18 to 49 years of age demographic on a Thursday night. 2024, the first event was Artur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith, which did averaged 590, and it was a point up, 0.14. So that's pretty bad. Like, just hear me out. Teofimo had a lead in the Super Bowl. So I understand it's a different sport, the NFL, but the thing with the Super Bowl is it's a lead in, just like when Teofimo was fighting, you know, guys that he was supposed to beat, but he was knocking them out impressively on the Heisman Trophy award night. So that's kind of a lead in. Now in this case, Teo was the lead in to the Super Bowl, but people are requesting time off from work. People are thinking about buying wings and nachos and beers and stuff like that. So they're in a sports viewing mindset, which is why I'm sure Top Rank decided to put this fight on Thursday instead of Saturday, because Saturday is so close to the Super Bowl that I don't know, you might get outshined by other programming, or, you know, ESPN, they pay the bills, Disney, ESPN, so they really call the shots in terms of the programming, and they might want a lot more programming about the Super Bowl the day before the Super Bowl, you know, because that's a rating spike for anybody in the sports industry that covers that sport. But Teofimo, he's doing basically 450,000 average. I don't know what the peak was, but I've been in the boxing game long enough, And it really doesn't matter. The reason why I said it doesn't matter is because I know the game. And if your average is where it's at, and the fight was the type of fight that Teofimo Lopez versus Jamaine Ortiz was, then I can't imagine that whatever it spiked at, the peak is super duper great or much greater. Because what I've noticed in boxing, usually when somebody has a crazy peak in terms of the spike of viewership, it's usually a crazy fight. It's usually someone got knocked down and, people are typing and talking about it on X or Twitter. So you're like, oh, let me check it. Let me go to ESPN and see what's happening. Right? Because everybody at least in America, I think it's called FOMO, fear of missing out. Right? Everybody has that fear of missing out. So if you're telling them there's this dope fight on and, let's say, obviously this was a pay-per-view, but I'm just giving you guys an example of a dope boxing fight where early on you could imagine that if it was on network TV, there would be a spike, would be a fight like Juan Manuel Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao. The fourth fight. Because in one of the earlier rounds, Marquez was the first one to draw blood and he dropped Pacquiao. And to my knowledge, off the top of my head, in the previous trilogy, Marquez had never dropped Pacquiao. But he came back jacked and buffed and working with Mimo and all that. And he dropped Pacquiao. So if that was on network TV, which it wasn't, it was on pay-per-view. But just giving you guys an example, had that fight been on network TV, that would have got people to jump, because everybody would have been typing, oh, Pacquiao got dropped, he's hurt. And then right after that, a round or so after that, Pacquiao ends up dropping Marquez, and it looked like he almost broke his nose. He was starting to rearrange his face, and then the obvious ending of Marquez bodying Pacquiao with that right hand. So that would be a type of fight where I can imagine it would have several spikes, especially the peak could go crazy because what's happening. But the T.O. Jamaine Ortiz, it wasn't that tenor of a fight. It wasn't that style of fight where, Bob, listen, Bob Arum did an interview and he said, Teofimo Lopez versus Jamaine Ortiz, it was terrible. I've seen Muhammad Ali, the great Lomachenko, and that was a bogus fight. It was bunk. Bro, your own promoter said the fight was terrible. Now, me personally, I thought Teofimo lost. Bob Arum is tripping. Bob Arum said that Jamaine Ortiz won 1 or 2 rounds and ran all night. Bro, that's you trying to protect your investment. Anybody who knows boxing that watched that fight, you should have comfortably had Jamaine Ortiz winning. He boxed beautifully. The reason why the fight was boring, the reason why the fight, didn't exceed expectations is because you have an action fighter, a boxer puncher in Teofimo Lopez who couldn't cut off the ring. So it muted his offense. He was missing wildly. Jamaine Ortiz used his frame, used his height, used his reach, all of these things coupled together and had Teofimo looking very foolish in the fight. So that's why the usual suspects in boxing, old media, that's why they say these things like, oh, the fight was so hard to watch. It wasn't hard to watch. People comparing it to, Shakur Edwin De Los Santos. I didn't mind that fight, the Jamaine Ortiz fight. I was into it until the robbery at the end. Shakur fight, that wasn't good because neither one had an offense. Now, I'm not going to say that Jamaine Ortiz and T.O. both threw a lot of punches because they didn't throw, it wasn't a volume fight. But I didn't have any problem with the tenor of the fight. The majority of the people, you could believe me or you could believe them, but I have no horse in the race. It's not my event. I didn't put on the event, so I don't look bad in I don't train Teofimo or Jamaine Ortiz. So I have no reason to not be neutral. But Bob Arum, he works with Teofimo. that's his star guy, so he has a reason to try to clean it up, because the whole world, if you watch the fight, it wasn't what old media is saying. But anyway, it's not the type of fight that, even though I just told you I had no problem with it, it's not the type of fight that casuals and would probably see huge spikes. So as far as I'm concerned, these numbers are pretty bad. 450,000 viewers that Teofimo is doing. But wait, there's more. Dan Rayfield, boxing reporter, he was one of the many who put out the official attendance. It says official attendance for Teofimo Lopez versus Jamaine Ortiz is 6,206 at Mandalay Bay. So you're in Vegas. Super Bowl weekend was right around the corner. You do an average of 450,000, which is less than Artur Beterbiev. So peep this. Artur Beterbiev is a Russian Muslim fighter who moved to Canada, or that's his second home, and in Canada fought an English fighter, he fought Callum Smith, a UK guy, and they did a better average than you, and neither guy is from America. But more people were tapped in to the Beterbiev fight. And I know some people, they're gonna say, oh, but ego, it's because the Super Bowl. Well, that's Teofimo and his team. They the ones that decided to put it before the Super Bowl. So that was their decision. Obviously, if they thought they were gonna get crushed, or the viewership or whatever would be bad, I doubt that they would put the fight on Super Bowl weekend. So the reality of these top ranked Thursday fights is they try to piggyback off of other sports events, and it is not giving them a boost. Shakur Stevenson in the F1 races or whatever, and then it's not a package deal. Like, people who watch F1 racing don't care about Shakur Stevenson and his fights, most likely. People who are juiced for my 49ers, right, versus KC Chiefs. Obviously, there's not that much overlap with Teofimo Lopez. Now, finally, I'm glad you guys stuck around to the end. This is an article. You guys see it. Teofimo Lopez, I'm the A side, not Gervonta Davis. Tables turn. Teofimo previously said he was the A side over Gervonta Davis. Now, I told you then, and I'm telling you the same thing now. Showed you, then I told you. I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. Teofimo, these statements from Teo did not age well. You said that you were the A side and you're selling 6,000 tickets. And you could be like, oh, Jamaine Ortiz doesn't have a big name, ego. That's why. Well, Rolly wasn't the biggest name, didn't have a bunch of fights, and Gervonta Davis fought him in the Barclays, and they broke a record together. And now Rolly has gotten bigger since the Tank fight, right? So no matter what you say, these statements age like milk left on the counter for Teofimo. He literally tried to tell the world that he was the A side over Gervonta Davis. There's no way. He keeps talking about, like, there's one point where he was saying that he's the $20 million man. He getting $5 million minimums, cap. Then he said he was going to get 20 million minimums to fight, cap. How you going to get 20? And I have the tweets. Don't make me go into the crates. And in Teofimo, I seen him. He talking about people are hating. The facts ain't hate. The facts ain't hate. When you say something factual, that doesn't mean you're hating because you're telling the truth. He's like, oh, I got all these haters. And like, no one's hating on you. These are your numbers. How are you going to make 20 million minimums and you're selling 6,000 tickets? Now, the other thing is, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that he tried to stunt on Devin Haney as well. So Gervonta Davis, he's in his own league. He's the biggest guy, the biggest act from those divisions. I don't have to spend that much time. You guys know Teofimo ain't bigger than Gervonta Davis. That is apparent. But even him trying to front on Devin Haney, You look stupid because yesterday Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia announced a fight, and I guarantee you it's going to be more than 6,000 people in attendance, and it's going to be on pay-per-view. Devin Haney responded to a message that I had on Twitter, and he confirmed it's going to be on pay-per-view to me, and I'll do a video on that if you guys want. So, I mean, it's common sense. Ryan Garcia pushing Devin like, hold me back, and Bill Haney, hold me back. They've already started the promotion. There's no way that. So not only are you not the A-side over Tank, we know you're not the A-side over Ryan Garcia either. There was a rumor that Golden Boy wanted to make a Super Bowl of fights with Teofimo and Ryan Garcia. Teo was running around doing interviews saying he don't care about fighting Ryan Garcia. Well, you should, because Ryan and Devin, they finna have it lit. Ryan is a good salesman. You know, he's a good fighter with natural abilities, and you need help selling. So things since the Kambosos loss seem to be not looking great for Teofimo Lopez. Had a spark when you started, but now you're just garbage. You know what I mean? You're fighting Jamaine. And then the other thing is people thought you lost. You have 3 fights. In 2 of those fights, people weren't comfortable that you won. Jamaine Ortiz, you clearly beat Josh Taylor. So the Josh Taylor is the only victory where no one really doubts it. But Jamaine Ortiz and Sandor Martin. So in 3 of your last fights, 2 of them is due. One was and that's just because Josh Taylor was weight drained. So yeah, Teofimo, he got to come back to this planet. You're not the star that you've depicted yourself to be. Not with these numbers. 450,000 viewers. That's not even a pay-per-view. It's not like, you know, people, you got idiot, man, listen to me or listen to the other idiots in boxing. It don't matter. My paycheck's still going to be the same, if not greater. You got people who are like, oh, ha, 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 Tank and Rolly only sold 250,000. Even if it sold 250,000, which I don't know that that's the number, but I'm just going off of what the haters say. 250,000 times $80 a pay-per-view, you do the math. Versus Teofimo at the Mandalay Bay, and he's selling 6,000 tickets. 6,000 tickets. Get your tickets. He sold 6,000 tickets with no pay-per-view. So you do the math on that. I mean, what could the live gate have been? I've seen videos and whole sections look like they were blocked off and all that type of stuff. So how much money could they have made from this arena off of 6,000 tickets? Now, I'm not the smartest brother in the world, but the other thing is you had, like, I think even Terrence Crawford tweeted on the Ortiz fight, the Lopez Ortiz fight. He said, where are all the people at? So, you know, Bud Crawford, he kept it real too. So listen, you sold 6,000 tickets. 6,000 tickets, no pay-per-view, and a fight that at best is controversial or subjective. People think you lost. What is that going to do for your next fight? Yes, you're a champion, but you're getting blown out the water with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, which will, I think, do very good. Gervonta Davis, he's already the top of the totem pole. I mean, this, to be honest, this looked bad for Teofimo. And Teo, like I said, he was on his high horse, said he didn't want to fight Ryan Garcia, or he's past fighting Ryan Garcia. But now he's talking about fighting in Honduras. Who is going to go to Honduras when you just had 2 robberies in 3 fights, Sandor Martin and Jamaine Ortiz? Who's going to fight you in Honduras, you know, knowing the politics? That doesn't even make sense. And off of that performance, you're not the money man. You're not the cash cow. Like in the UFC at Conor McGregor. Okay, Conor's the money man. Teo is not the money man. So that's the thing about boxing. I said what I said. People deny it. I told you Teo wasn't the A-side then, and he for dang sure ain't now. And now what's happening is other people are now surpassing you. Like you try to front on Devin Haney. You could have fought Devin Haney. You didn't fight Devin Haney. And then now Devin is beating the guy that beat you, George Kambosos, twice in Australia. So he got a lot of accolades for that. And he became undisputed, something Teofimo claims but never really was. He beat Lomachenko, just like you beat Lomachenko. And now he's he moved up and fought Regis Prograis, a guy you didn't fight at 140, a champion, right? You never unified. And then on top of that, he's about to fight Ryan Garcia, so he's getting like a main stake type of fight. Meanwhile, Tio's talking about I'm the money man and fighters are afraid to fight me, and I'm the cash cow and the A-side over Tank, and he's selling 6,000 tickets and doing less viewership than Artur Beterbiev. And I like Artur Beterbiev too. And then people saying you lost, like Terrence Crawford, myself, and many others, you know? So good luck to Tio, but it's looking ugly because men lie, women lie, but numbers don't.